I'm a senior business advisor with the Massachusetts Small Business Development Center, located out of Springfield and covering all of Western Massachusetts. Thank you so much for joining us today. This is the last of the basics series of a number of marketing programs we're putting on this fall. So here we are, the basics of designing the website. And after this is a 2-hour session, but there are a number of 1.5-hour sessions, 90-minute sessions that take off beginning this Thursday and go all the way through November. There are 18 classes, and we can send this to you after the webinar just so you're sure that you get in on all of these. But these are the basics, and then it will go into different platforms, just so you know. This program is brought to you by a Western Massachusetts collaboration of the Franklin County CDC, Valley Community Development, the Center for Women in Enterprise, SCORE, and the SBDC offices out of the University of Massachusetts, Salem State, and Clark University. So this is some contact information for the various organizations that are represented in this collaboration, and you'll be getting this so you can have all this information as well. And our offices are located in these particular addresses. We also can help with procurement, technical assistance, and import-export as well. And so that's the MSBDC. So today, this is again, as I said, the last of the beginning, which are the basics. And this is the basics of designing the website. And we have with us today Roberto Torres, who is the owner of Turum, located in Ware, Massachusetts. Roberto focuses on web design and search engine optimization. So after 20 years in IT and side hustling web consulting, he decided to transition to full-time in 2018, and he is helping local businesses grow using their website and Google tools, and has nothing but 5-star ratings in Google, which is fabulous. So we thank you so much for being here today, and he is here in partnership with Western Massachusetts SCORE. Roberto, thank you so much. I'll stop sharing my screen, and that will allow you to share yours.
Excellent. Thank you. Thank you very, very, very much, Anita. Let me go ahead and share this here. All right. Can everybody see the screen?
Yep.
Yes.
All right. All right. Do you know if the questions coming in are going to be in the participant chat or in the Q&A?
They can come in either way, but we can
Okay.
monitor the chat if you'd like.
Oh, okay. Okay.
And can we ask as you go along, or do you want us to hold questions till the end?
I'm okay with both.
Okay.
If it may seem helpful on a particular slide, if I go ahead and answer some questions there. So yeah, I'm open for that.
And I turned off your cameras, Anita and Len, but feel free to turn them back on if you feel that's better for flow of the webinar.
Okay.
So I wanted to start just kind of a quick review. I think some of the previous basic seminars or workshops were covering, I think Len did developing a marketing plan and strategy last week, and covered, I looked through the presentation and saw just some great points about who is your target customer, how to identify that target customer through getting maybe some demographic data, maybe getting some location data, but basically identifying who your target customer is going to be. I think that's going to really help in whenever you build a website for your business, you're building it for them. So knowing what they need, what they're looking for, who they are, what they're into is going to be very, very important. So we'll get more into that here as we get into the slides. what is your business message was part of that as well that I saw Len cover. And that's going to be a critical piece again for your website, because you don't have a lot of time, and we'll get into some of the details as to how you can refine and hone your message for a website and make sure that it communicates what you want it to communicate in a quick and efficient way. Then your goals for your business are going to also be applied into your website, because in order for you to know what you want people to do on your website, you have to have a goal. And whatever your business goal or outcomes are, that's going to dictate how you attract and build your website and lead people through that experience. So that's basics of not only marketing, but how you're going to apply that to your website. So let me move in here to the next slide. What we're going to cover is really going back to what has been covered, I think, a lot in last week, is how to clarify your offering and doing it for the web. A web page, especially your home page, it's got to clearly communicate something in less than 5 seconds. It's a fast moving experience for the end user. I think many people know that when they visit a website, whether it's on their phone or on their laptop, they're perusing it, they're quickly looking at it and figuring out whether this website is going to do what I need it to do or offer what I am looking for. So knowing that you have to clarify what your business does very quickly is essential for a successful website, for keeping that visitor there who is going to move on very quickly if they can't find what they're looking for. So, so the second piece here we'll talk about is how to address the intent of your audience, and that's going to come in with your content and understanding what people are looking for. So when it comes to your audience, knowing what they're looking for, knowing what they need, knowing the problems that they are trying to solve, is going to be very, very important when building out what your website content will look like and what it will contain and what it will provide for people. So in that, we'll talk a little bit about this as I get into it, is what are they trying to do? Are they looking for information, or are they just ready to buy? There's an example company, a landscaping company, that I'll bring up and I'll show you. But when somebody's looking for a landscaping company, what are they trying to do? Are they ready to buy? They just need their lawn mowed? Or are they looking for someone to weed and take care of a larger garden? Maybe they have a beautiful landscaped garden that needs a lot of care. So there's two types of buyers right there. Someone that just needs their lawn mowed quickly because it's getting out of hand, and then someone who's looking for someone to take care of an ornamental garden, and someone who's going to know what they're doing when it comes to their garden. And then the purpose of the website, the goals and calls to action. Once you've clarified your offering, once you've addressed what the person is looking for, the visitor is looking for, what do you want them to do? Do you want them to book a meeting, book a call, purchase your product? Whatever that is, based on your business goals, that's going to define how that's going to work. So that's a real high level of what we're going to cover. So let's dive in. I see a Q&A already. It pops up on my screen. We can take a look at that. I did put this slide in here to just let you know that I'm happy to spend a lot of time answering questions, very specific ones if we need to, about your particular business and your website. And so we can stay to the end and do that more. And also, as we go through it slide by slide, please let me know if there's questions that I can help with. All right, so how to clarify your offering. This is really going to get down into some basics. A lot of times my experience has been we want to use a lot of detailed language. And so that detailed language can sometimes be misleading. So we want to kind of break it down into basics, break it down into step-by-step instructions or step-by-step processes and procedures. And so this first, question here is, what does your specific, or what does your product or service specifically do? What does it do exactly? And here's an example. You know how hard it is to keep your property's lawn trim and kept. Our business, our landscaping business, let's say in this example, we solve that problem by regularly mowing, trimming, and weeding all the plant life on your property. Now that sounds very simple, right? But what you're explaining is exactly what you're going to do. You're not getting into an elaborate discussion about what types of fertilizer you're going to use or how powerful your lawnmowers are, or getting into all the nitty-gritty details about what tools you're using. You're just explaining exactly what the service is going to deliver. And you're doing it at such a understandable level. Oh, I'm going to mow your lawn. I'm going to trim your edging, and I'm going to weed all the plant life on your entire property. Second point here is, just like the first, keeping it simple and avoiding jargon. Jargon is something that's it's a trap. I know I use it a lot of times in my industry, but any business has particular language that is unique to their niche or unique to their business, and it's hard not to use it. It really is. So my recommendation always is to just explain how you're going to do what you're going to do. And I give two examples here. A bad example would be this landscaping company. They're going to say, our expert landscaping service will maintain your property. And it's vague. There's not a lot of detail about how you're going to do that. It's just saying we'll maintain your property. And that may be true. There's nothing wrong with that, but you're not talking about what you're actually going to do. So instead, here's a good example in green. Each week, we'll mow your lawn and trim your hedges and bushes. So the good example doesn't really use any real jargon for the industry. It's just calling things what they are, and is being very detailed and explaining exactly how the landscaping service works. Very straightforward, very simple.
Roberto, one of our attendees asked what you think of carousel headers. That may be more of a design question where it's kind of rotating when you get on as to what the services are.
Yeah, that's a great question, and it is a design question. I will some of the slides will get into some of the more design aspects of things, but I would say that carousel headers in the what they call the hero section, usually that very top part of your page, is not something you want to do, at least today. I think it is a trending design concept many years ago. Today, people aren't really waiting around for that carousel to spin every 3 seconds or to move to another set of services or information. Usually a static page that clearly communicates what you do right from the get-go is a better way to go. And then you can, as you scroll down, maybe elaborate on what that is. Having a carousel is really distracting, and it's going to leave people to miss out on something that you might be saying in that section, but they didn't wait to scroll through or didn't hit the toggle buttons. Usually there's like a left and right arrow buttons. Usually they won't participate in that. So we'll get into that a little bit more here in some of the slides. You'll see I'll actually have a website, a page.
Oh, great.
So why do this? What's the reason for all this? Well, you really have less than 5 seconds to capture the visitor. There's been polls and statistics and data accumulated, for the last 20 years about user activity, and it's just been proven and shown that people are perusing these websites. They're not reading them. They're seeing what they're looking for keywords. They're seeing at a glance what it is that the business does and how they can help. And it's showcasing really, it's almost like a short attention span that people have. They just want to move through, find what they need and move on. And so you really want to keep everything as short, to the point, and capture them with the keywords. For example, in the good and bad example in the slide, your landscaping service will maintain your property. Well, that's true about every, landscaping service, right? The keywords that they may be are looking for are mow my lawn and trim my bushes, or trim my hedges, or maintain my garden. So those keywords are important to get across in short bursts, if you will. All right. So one of the things that is really hard to do is not only summarize what it is your business does in really, really short paragraphs, but also trying to focus on the benefits. I know as a business owner, myself and many of my customers will want to focus on the features, because the features are really almost what sets you apart. In the case of, let's say, a landscaping company, they may use organic fertilizers, or they may use a very, very high-end type of lawnmower or cutting method or way that they take care of their lawn. And those are all great features, but ultimately you want to focus on the benefits. The features aren't really going to matter to an end user or to a customer or to a visitor. They're really wanting to know what's in it for me. So what you want to do is focus on the benefits and what's in it for the customer. Here's a couple of examples of bad and good. The bad example, 24-hour zero-turn or 24 horsepower zero-turn mower, specially formulated, all natural fertilizer. Those are great. They're important, but they don't really tell you what you do for me or what you're doing for the customer. A good example would be, you will benefit by spending more time enjoying your yard instead of weeding it, or instead of weeding your garden. So the benefit is, I'm going to be able to spend more time enjoying my lawn. I don't really care that you have a 24 horsepower zero-turn mower, though that's great for you and your tools to do the job. It's not really great for me. And again, focusing on the benefits, you want to mention the problem once. You don't want to rehash it. They know what their problem is. They came in knowing that, and you don't want to repeat that to them. Sometimes there are some industries where the customer doesn't necessarily know what the problem is. They just know they have one. And you'll want to explain that, but you don't want to rehash it over and over again. So in this example, don't have time to mow your lawn. Well, each week we'll mow your entire lawn, we'll edge your driveway and shrubs or gardens, and then trim your hedges and shrubs. You're mentioning the problem that somebody doesn't have time to take care of their garden, their lawn, and their landscape, but we solve that problem by doing this, and we do it regularly, weekly, to make sure that you never have to worry about it. So this is a great example of how a landscaping company can communicate how they solve the problem, and do it just once, and then repeat the benefits over and over again. So as I was mentioning before that question came in, is I have some examples of a website. They're not real websites. This was built in a product called Canva, which is just like a simple graphic design application. So it's not a real website or anything like that, but it just kind of gives you a framework that you can see what a web page might look like when applying some of these principles on how to clarify your offering. So here is, and I know because we're on we're in probably a 16:9 format that's horizontal, and the website's vertical, it's kind of squished in there. So forgive me if you can't see the very bottom or the very top here, but this is an example of a home page or a landing page. And in this example, there's some elements that you'll want to just make note of, and I've pointed or highlighted them on the left and right. So on the left here, you'll see the product or service is clearly stated really quickly, and it explains what the business, who the business is, what they do, for whom are they doing the service, or for whom is the product. You know, the target market that you learned about last week or with Len, is you're identifying who that is and you're mentioning it here, because it's very important for people to know this is for homeowners in this case, but maybe it's for commercial customers, or maybe it's for both. So you'd want to specify that, and then mention why someone should care. It could be one of the benefits, or maybe it's the main benefit that you want to highlight here and say, why should somebody care about your product or service? Well, right from the get-go, right in this hero section at the very top, you're mentioning that and you're saying, here's why: because it saves you time, or because you don't have the resources, or maybe you don't want to deal with maintaining a lawnmower or dealing with lawn equipment. You're dealing with that right from the get-go. On the right-hand side, you'll see, and these are other points of emphasis, is you want to provide simple navigation. And what that means is you want to reduce the amount of options. So if someone visits a website and they have 20 options of what to do and where to go, they will likely not pick any of them because it's too many options, and you really want to keep that very, you want to keep it to a minimum of maybe 4 to 6. I've seen websites that have 8 or 10, and it's too many options. So if you need to, you can collapse. You know, maybe you do have 30, 40, 50 pages on your website. You don't have to link to all of them here. You can link to them from other pages. So it's a good idea to keep that navigation nice and simple, bring them on a journey of where you want them to go, and lead them to where they can make the purchase or make the appointment. Also up here in the top right is the phone number. I don't know if you can all see that, but you want to make it very easy for someone to reach you. A phone number is great. Many businesses operate with a phone number that goes to a cell phone, or maybe it goes to an auto attendant, or maybe it goes to a receptionist. But whatever that number is, try to make it very clear. I think people are really appreciating being able to talk to a human, especially these days. So if you can provide a phone number that leads to a human, I think you'll win some customers just by doing that. So make sure that's easily found right at the top. If it's on a mobile device, you can make it a button that says call now right at the very top when they visit your page. On the right here, there's some elements that are really meant to build trust. They can communicate what you do, what you provide, and who you do it for, but they do really more communicate trust, meaning if you're in business and you have a team, or you're the owner, show a picture of yourself, or show a picture of your team here, or show your business at work. This is a great way to show your real business, and maybe that you're local. If you have a location in the area, maybe you could show the storefront if you have a store. But it's important to build that trust right from the get-go. It doesn't have to be fancy, but I would avoid stock. You really want to try to avoid stock photos or stock videos, because they don't communicate a real business. They communicate a stock photo is what they say. So you can also build trust with testimonials and with logos of your customers. Building these logos here help identify that you've been working with other businesses or with other customers, and it validates that what you're doing is real, and it validates that others have trusted you with this service. And so that can build trust right off the get-go, especially if it's recognizable businesses in the area.
Roberto, if you're going to use testimonials or logos of companies that you work with, do you need to get their permission?
Yeah, I would recommend it. I don't think from a legal standpoint it's required, but I would always err on the side of caution and say get permission. There's a good way to do that. Just ask. You can put it together in a disclaimer, or you could put it together in some formal document with them signing off. But honestly, an email or a phone call that says, hey, I appreciate the feedback you gave me. Is it okay if I publish this on my website or share it with others on some of my marketing materials like my website? Most people are going to say, yeah, that's absolutely fine, because, well, at least from a logo standpoint, it's a little bit of visibility for them. And then from a private user, like an individual, if you have them leave a testimonial like on Yelp or Google My Business, it's public. It's already public. So there really won't be that much of a change for them. It's just being on your website.
And I have a question that's come from the audience. What if you have multiple target audiences? In this particular situation, it's an organization that is in need of trained interns. The second one is college students who are looking for real world experiences. And the third audience is colleges who want their students to have value added internships. So how do you create a message that's speaking to all of those at once?
That's a good question. Is this all, well, let me assume that this is all one organization doing that. Mm-hmm. You really can, you can segment a landing page for each audience. So for example, with the trained interns, you can create a landing page that's specifically designed for that audience. It doesn't have to be a home page. Just for clarification, a home page is really the top level domain. So for example, let's say this organization's called highered.edu. Highered.edu, that page would be the home page. A landing page can be, for let's say the trained interns, could be highered.edu/trained interns, and then the next audience, college students, and then the next audience, colleges. But you would want to maybe link to them on this page. So for example, where it says our services, where it says lawns, hardscapes, and training, you could say our audiences, or who we serve, or what are the who do we help, and have 3 columns that say we help trained interns. And if you want to maybe highlight the benefits under that section and say, if you want to learn more, here's the call to action to go visit the trained intern site or page.
Gotcha.
And then the same for the other 2, college students and then colleges. Having multiple audiences is it's challenging, but it's not it's not impossible to deal with. It does have to be thought through though, because every piece of content that you write, you're going to want to try to identify a particular audience and yes, gear it towards them.
Thank you.
You're welcome. That was a great question, by the way. We're getting into more advanced stuff beyond the basics at this point, but that's great. So a couple of other elements here I'll just mention. We were down here at the services section where you're giving a clear call to action, and you're being descriptive when you do that. If you can see where it says lawns, the call to action or the button says schedule mowing. You want to be more detailed or very specific in your call to action. You don't want to be vague. It tells people what's going to happen when they click is really what you want. You want to be able to say, when you click this button, it's going to be to schedule a job or schedule the mowing of your lawn. When it comes to the hardscapes, you're going to be requesting a quote. And then if you're doing gardening training and things like that, start learning is the call to action there. And on the last, and you'll see this, actually, this is going to be repeated in the other pages. The low commitment option. One of the things that we'll see in some of the other slides is there's going to be an intent of the visitor. What are they here to do? What are they looking for? And a lot of times they're not ready to move forward. Here, there's some very clear call to actions, but maybe they're not ready. They're just trying to figure you out a little bit. They're researching and they're not sure what to do yet. Having a low commitment option that doesn't require them to do much work is always a great option. And it's here at the very bottom, but it gives them a little bit of a benefit. Okay, you're not ready, I understand. Go ahead and sign up for our newsletter, and you'll save a little bit of money maybe on a future purchase, because we send out weekly, monthly, whatever it might be, special offers to those who subscribe. So in exchange of for your email, you're going to get something out of it. You give me your email and I'll give you something. And it's low commitment, very easy to do without having to engage the business and commit to a sales process that I'm really not ready for. So that's just something you'll see it's repeated on these other pages. So I'll go ahead and move on to the next slide here. So we covered, going back here, just clarifying your offering, what that looks like on a web page. And then, and in this case, it's a landing page or a home page. And now we're going to talk about addressing the intent of the visitor. Just like what I was talking about with this low commitment option, the intent of that visitor, are they ready to buy? Are they looking for information? That's what we're going to cover here. So we've defined what the product or service is based on all the research that you've done and some of the marketing basics that Len had covered, understanding your user demographic or customer demographic, maybe their age, maybe their income, maybe their location. So now we're going to cater the website to that audience and try to understand their intent. And that's really going to be framed around two pieces of content, or two types of content. Transactional content, which means they're ready to buy. They know you sell a great pizza pie and they're just wanting to order one. They're not really here to be sold on it because they know they want it and they're ready to go. That's a transactional piece of content. And informational is, oh, I've heard about this pizza place. You know, there's, you know, Pizza Shop A that I always go to, but I've heard good things about Pizza Shop B. Let's find out let me find a little bit more about this business. So informational content that tells them a little bit about, you know, here's our procedure, here's our process for making pizza. We use the best ingredients. You know, we use local ingredients. You're not trying to sell, you're just telling them about what it is you do. In this case, a product or service page is usually going to be transactional. It's going to have a path to purchase. You know, you're ready to buy. Well, here's what you need to do to buy the product or buy the service. Where an informational page is going to be probably an about page to learn about the business, maybe a blog article about, you know, for our example landscaping company, maybe that's where they talk about the 24 horsepower zero turn mower that they use. You know, why their equipment is so efficient and why they can come and do a 1 acre lawn in 15 minutes. And then FAQ pages. Sometimes there's hesitation to move forward. So they need to know a little bit more. And an FAQ page is a very helpful way to answer those questions, kind of in a short form format, so they can quickly go boom, boom, boom through the FAQs, get the quick answers, and have any hesitation removed or anything that's stopping them from moving forward. So what do these look like on a website? So we're gonna have another screenshot here. So this is a transactional page. It's a service page where you're assuming the visitor is interested and is looking to buy. So again, it's a lot like a landing page, but you're only focusing on one service. You're not going to get into other benefits or other services that you do. You can lead them to that if you wanted to at the bottom. Maybe say you don't need your lawn mowed. Maybe you need your garden weeded, so you can lead them that way. So on the top here, you'll see you want to leave it to one service or one product. You want to be descriptive, put that service title, description, and then a call to action. That's really designed for that ready to buy customer. They've read enough, they're ready to go, they want to just move forward. So you have that call to action, schedule mowing. Again, just like your landing page, you want to build credibility, show testimonials, show real photos of work that you've done, establish trust by showcasing it, making sure, obviously you have permission, but really just leveraging the fact that people are using your business and using your services and are liking it. On the right-hand side, and I think Len talked about this a little bit, is your unique value proposition. What is it that's unique about your business, about your service, about what it is you're providing to your visitors or your customers? And really dive into that here. Mention the benefits again, mention the value, and then just like we talked about where you're establishing what your business does and how you do it, go over the process, be very detailed. It's okay to explain what it is you do. If it's, every week we show up, we park on the sidewalk or we park on the road, and we start by letting you know we're here. We may knock on the door if you're in the driveway. We just let you know we're here, and then we start our equipment up and start working around your house with some weed whacking, and then we move into the lawn mowing, and then we finish up by cleaning up. You'll hear some blower equipment. We'll put the gutters back on. Talk about that. That's perfectly fine to let people know what it is you do, what your process is, and how you do what you do and do it so well. And
Roberto, can you just reiterate though, you're suggesting one page per service, is
yes.
that right? Okay.
Yep. One page per service or one page per product.
Okay.
You can have and I'll clarify this, you can have a services page. Like for example, at the top, you see where it says services, and that services page could list all of your services and have just a brief synopsis of what those services are, but they will also link to a single service page or document.
Okay.
The reason for that, there's multiple reasons, but primarily is you want the attention and detail about that particular product or service to be given a full page attention, and then from what's the SEO part of it, or from the search engine part of it, is when somebody's looking for that particular service or product, they're probably not going to find your homepage. They're probably going to find this service page. So this is what will appear more than likely in Google search or Bing searches. It's dedicated to what you're offering. Where the homepage is just a nice summary, this is a detailed, more of a comprehensive look at it. And that's why you want to dedicate the whole page to it.
Great, thanks.
Mm-hmm. Down in the bottom left, you'll see here, you want to give a clear call to action again. You really don't want to give, if you notice, this page has really one or two calls to action. There isn't anything else that they can do. They can either schedule the mowing or they have the low commitment option. So it's very important that service page really is you're really only giving one path to purchase. You're making it very linear. You don't want to make it difficult. You want to make it easy to buy. Now, some of the copy, I don't know if you can read that. This was an example that I thought might be helpful. Asking, if you're not sure what size your lawn is, don't worry. I don't think a landscaping service would do this, but maybe they would, is they offer a free service that will include an estimate. So it proves, in this case, they'll do a good job because they're going to come do it for free. And then if you want to continue with the service, here's the price. So removing any barriers is a good idea. How you can do that creatively, each business is going to be different, but you want to really remove any barriers on your website to purchasing your product or service. All right, so I'm going to move on to the next slide here, unless there was any questions.
No, we're fine.
All right, so just a reminder here, so this was a transactional page. Somebody's ready to buy. And then on this page, we have more of an informational page, meaning you're not really here trying to sell, you're here to inform. And the visitor's here to learn, not necessarily be sold on a product or service. They're really here to learn about your company. So here's an example of an about page where right at the top, showing a picture, a real picture. This is a stock photo, so it's a bad example, but a real picture of you or your team, putting that prominently right at the top in the hero section is a great way to build trust. And then the about page is kind of a misnomer. You really don't want to make the page about you. You really want to make it about the customer and how your business will help you solve their problems. It's good to highlight things like, for example, on the left-hand side, you'll see you want to showcase qualifications, certifications, awards, but you want to do it in the context of we are really good at helping you solve your problem. You don't want it to be you don't want it to be touting that you're really good or that, it's all about you. You really want to make it all about the customer and how you can best serve them. And it's a hard balance, but it's something to keep in mind whenever you're writing the content for an about page. It's important to be likable, be approachable, and don't sell. Don't use this page to sell. Really just let it be informative, let it stand on its own. If there is an option, let it be that low commitment option where they can learn more about you, or that they can get something for in exchange for their email. All right, so here's another informational page. So we've covered the transactional page, service page, which is highlighting a call to action and trying to get the visitor to do something, take action, where we've covered an about page where it's informational and it's really about the visitor, not about the business, but you want to showcase why you're the right fit. And then here's an example informational page or blog page. It could also be an article, but basically this is discussing a particular topic. So blogs are really, really important. I can't stress that enough. In order for a website to get traffic for, not just your business name, but for terms and searches for products and services and things that your business does well, a blog is going to allow those pages to rank in Google search and in Bing search. So it's very important to make sure you think about or consider blogging, because let's say you're this landscaping company and you can help deal with, let's say, burnt grass or grass that's gone dry, or whether they should use a bluegrass or a fescue, or maybe they have arborvitaes that are dying. And people are looking for help with those things, and your website won't rank for any of that unless you address that type of content or address that topic. And the best way to do that is through a blog. Explain why in New England, here's how to take care of your arborvitaes, or this is why you want to use a bluegrass or a fescue for your lawn, and explain it. That's going to show up in Google searches when people around here are looking for it. In your blog page, for example, you want to get to the point. Tell the reader why they should read this. Don't linger too long here. Don't make them work for it. Think again that people are perusing. They're looking for quick answers. They're not trying to read a 2,000 word long form piece of information. There are people out there, but assume that they're not. Explain what it is that you're going to cover and be really precise about that. Try not to sell. You can have a transactional blog page, but in most cases, assume they're just there for information. Don't try to sell to them. Try to be informative, be thorough, and add value. That's the biggest piece, is add value. Make sure everything adds value, even the picture. Make sure that it shows maybe what you're talking about. Give an example. Let's say it's the burnt grass or the arborvitae that's dying. Put a picture of it up there so that people can say, oh yeah, that's what mine look like. Over here on the left, you'll see you want to use short paragraphs with lists and bullet points. They're very easy to read. They cover a lot of information in a short form. Did somebody, I heard something.
Yeah, Roberto, I have a question. This came in about the use of short videos, maybe for the About page, but someone else had asked prior to this class,
Yep.
Is this an appropriate place to put a short video in your blog page? So would it be impactful for that landscaper to be walking around, a lawn that has burnt spots and say, do you ever see this when you're driving by? This is what causes this to happen. And will the videos draw attention for SEO, or are words more impactful?
That's a great question. So, short answer, yes. Videos are fantastic. Use them whenever and wherever. And I would, in fact, if they're willing, if they're able to, start with video. Do the blog in video form. Don't even bother typing it. Just go out, walk around your lawn or a customer's lawn and explain what you're doing, because you're creating the content naturally or more organically just by doing the video. And then you can go back and listen to what you said and then just type it out. So that video that you've created can be your source of content that's either written or can be used in social media. It's perfect for more social media content, just little snippets of what you've said in your video. So yes, absolutely. On the landing pages, on your about pages, on your blog posts, absolutely. Video is really, really a great medium for people to visually see and audibly hear your business.
Great.
When it comes to SEO, yes. If you even do your own searches, if you go into Google and say, how do I seed my lawn? The first results, now this is different, it will be different for everyone because of their own search history, their own search preferences, but more than likely, you're gonna see videos, more than likely YouTube videos, because Google owns YouTube, but they're gonna be popping up at the top with answering that question before they even get to the written content. So from an SEO perspective, it is great to do video, as long as the video, if you take the same approach that you would with written content and apply that to video, meaning make sure the title addresses exactly the search intent of the user, of the visitor. So if they're looking for information on how to seed their lawn, make sure the video says how to seed your lawn and describe your audience. Maybe your landscaping company deals with homeowners in Massachusetts. So say that, how to seed your lawn for homeowners in Massachusetts. That's going to target your audience and get more views by people in Massachusetts because you said that right from the get-go. So yes, video is great. Great question and great idea. I think, just lastly about the videos, captions, like the SEO question was framed, written content, Google can read it. And it's important that Google can then decipher what the content is about. In the same way, they can't really watch video and decipher what it's about. They have to go off of the titles, the descriptions, and then if there's captions, they can read the captions. So it tells them even more about what the video is about. So if you can apply captions, I think if you use YouTube or any video hosting service, there'll be an option to open it up for public. Basically the public can add captions on their own. You're leaving it open for people to edit essentially the video and add captions. That's an option, or there's services out there that will do that for you. But one of the best ways you can do it is just play the video on your computer with like Microsoft Word open and have it listen to the video, and it'll transcribe it for you. It'll probably get it wrong, but you can, get the majority of it and fix it later. So those are some great ways to use video for SEO.
Great.
That was a great question. So lastly here is we've covered, let me go back here, understanding the intent of your visitor, making it transactional for people who are ready to buy, making it informational for people who are not ready to buy but need more information, and then obviously for people who aren't ready to commit at all, giving them a low commitment option is ideal. So lastly here is really the purpose of the website, and this goes back to I think what Len covered again is what is the outcome or the business goal, and let that inform the purpose of your website. Let that be just make your website one step in that process. Are you selling product? Are you generating leads? What is the purpose that the website's going to have for your overall business strategy? In that, again, that second point, where does your website fit in that strategy? So if you're trying to sell more product and you primarily want people to buy it on your website, then you've got to make that the sole place to purchase and make it easy for them to purchase. Some products will sell on Amazon, on Etsy, on eBay, and now you've got this multi-channel e-commerce thing going. Do you want your website to be part of that, or do you want your website to talk about going to Etsy, going to eBay, going to Amazon to get your products sold? And that's where that strategy has to come in. You got to figure that out and think how it's going to work for your business. From a e-commerce standpoint and people dealing with fulfillment, Amazon makes a lot of sense for them. And if it's working for them, they don't want to take people away from the Amazon experience. They don't want to say, go to our website, we got higher margins there. Well, if they're selling well and they're doing well and it's easier to fulfill through Amazon, then maybe that's your strategy to say, okay, we're going to write about content, we're going to rank about certain keywords, but ultimately there'll just be a link on our website to push them to our Amazon page to buy the product. So those are just some things to think about. And then lastly, what should a visitor do? You really want to give them one or two options. You don't want to give them too many options. From a psychology standpoint, when given too many options, a person won't choose. or they're not sure what to do, and so it gets confusing, and then they choose wrong. So give them 1 or 2 options, A or B, 3 options at most, and make it easy for them. Don't make them think too hard or work too hard. So in our landscaping company example, this is a path to purchase. There was 3 options that I just gave kind of an example for. They can give pricing based on lot size. So a customer can buy online a monthly landscaping service at $100 per acre. That's probably way too low. I don't know landscaping prices, but for example, if I know that my lot size is 1 acre and it's going to cost $100 per acre per month, I can just boom buy it online, and there's no conversation that needs to be had. I'm ready to buy, and I see the price and I'm ready to go. I can buy. So give that option if it's possible. A lot of businesses may not have that as an option. So alternatively, you can give customers, and this is option number 2, a request for quote option. And one business that I worked with, they do tree stump removal, and this was fantastic. The business owner has been doing this for years. He says, if you want a quote, take a picture of the stump that you want removed or the roots that you want removed, but with a 5-gallon bucket on top of it or next to it. And the reason he has them do that is based on the size and volume of a 5-gallon bucket, he knows the size and volume of that root or stump, and he can give a more accurate quote. Because a photo with just a stump, you can't tell if that's a 4-inch tree or a 12-inch tree. You have no idea. There's nothing to compare it to. So he says, do the 5-gallon bucket and add that to your request for quote. So his website just has that. Fill in the form fields. Where are you? Your phone number, and then attach a picture of the bucket. So that's a great way to just reduce friction for the customer. Makes it easy for them to get a quote quickly. And then this last option here is giving a calendar that allows people to schedule an in-person quote, maybe at their property, where they'll get a price and an option to buy right there. So we see this all the time. I think people are scheduling, or people are able to book appointments and meetings online, and they do it now for almost every business because you can't just walk in. They have to have like a scheduled appointment before they can go in. If you go to get a haircut today, you have to schedule your time. You can't just show up. No more walk-ins, right? So give that option. In every industry, you can give that option, and just schedule it for a phone call or a conference like this, or maybe it's to show up at the customer's property to give them an actual quote. If you're a roofing company, customer wants a quote, have them book an appointment. That means they'll be there. They've committed to it, and allows you to show up and give them a quote right then and there based on what you need to see about the roof. You can't really ask them to go on the roof and take pictures, but that allows you to capture that lead and give the customer a dedicated time and place to get your attention. So let's see here.
Roberta, as well, when you're talking about these options, you're also hitting totally different demographics, because someone who's older is going to want to call. Somebody who is younger is going to want to just schedule it right then and there on their phone. And so you're kind of covering all the ages as well.
Yeah, exactly. And that goes back even to the audience question. This company is dealing with homeowners in a particular area, right? But those homeowners could be first-time home buyers, maybe in their 20s, to somebody who's retired and staying at home, or doing their best to stay at home, and they may be in their 80s or 90s and they can't do the heavy lifting anymore. So offering all options, they just want a phone number. Well, it's right at the top of your landing page. And if they're using a mobile device, there's a button they just have to click. They don't have to dial anything. They just hit the button and it calls automatically. And then for the person that, you know, maybe they have a busy schedule and they don't know when they're going to be home, so they want to book you out on a Saturday afternoon because that's the only time they'll be around, that's an option as well. So you're right, you're covering every demographic there.
And we had a question about if you could clarify SEO, what the term means and what's the relationship between websites and SEO.
Yeah, that's a great question. So SEO stands for search engine optimization. I might have, no, I just gave you guys a sneak peek, sorry. Search engine optimization is really, it's the process of making your website friendly to search engines, but also to visitors or users. Google's a search engine, Bing is a search engine, DuckDuckGo is a search engine, Yahoo's a search engine, and their purpose is to provide their customers a way to find content that's out on the web, that's related to the search that you conduct. So if you today go to google.com and need, let's say you need a weed whacker. So you would want to purchase a weed whacker. You would do, you know, best weed whacker under $100 or best weed whacker under $200. And you're going to get websites that Google has found or has indexed into their giant database that answer that question, that address that need that you're trying to deal with. So when we're talking about search engine optimization, is you're using your website to specifically address that need and make it easy for the website, for the search engine, Google, and the person, the human, to interpret that and understand that and provide what it is they're looking for. So there's a lot of bad information on the internet about search engine optimization, you know, putting keywords in places and, you know, doing all kinds of shady practices. But really, ultimately, it's about the user's experience. When you can take 2 clicks to buy a weed whacker for under $200, that's a great experience, right? Boom, boom, I'm done. I've done what I wanted to do. And that's really what search engine optimization is about, making it easy for you to do what you want to do online.
I think we have a further question from Gisela. So Gisela, would you like to speak? Gisela, you're able to speak. If you could just unmute yourself. Okay, well, we'll see if she's back. Okay. Okay, Roberta, continue. We'll see if we can get that question answered.
Yeah, great. Stop me in the mid-sentence if you need to. That's perfectly fine. I'm going to just take a quick sip of water here. Okay, so continuing this, assigning a purpose to your website. Here's some more examples of things that you want to think through these. You can write it down, you know, take a notepad and kind of draw it out if you need to, but based on the search intent that we covered, where it's transactional or it's informational, walk a visitor through the experience you want them to have. And this goes back to that SEO question. Make it as easy as you possibly can. Reduce friction wherever possible. So in this example, we have, there's 2 examples here. Visitor 1, they're ready to buy and they want to give you money. So don't stop them. Let them give you money. In this case, maybe they land on your homepage or your landing page. Maybe they click on the service that they're looking for, and boom, they can book an appointment right away. You could even take the service page out of that and make it one less step step if you have that call to action right on your homepage. So they're ready to go, book an appointment, they pay you, and then they get redirected to a thank you page. And for various reasons, that thank you page is important, because it lets you track, because it lets you track the success of this new customer. And then secondly, it can also inform the new customer about what happens next. So they've given you money, they've booked an appointment. It could make them feel like, oh, you just taken my money. I don't see what's going on here. Well, a thank you page can say, don't worry, we got your appointment. Here's what to expect next. We will email you the day before confirming that we will arrive at such and such a time, or one of our office staff will be in contact with you to ask you a few more questions about your lawn or your yard. So that thank you page gives a lot of information to the customer to assure them that they didn't just throw away money, especially when it's online, because you want to assure them that their money isn't wasted or gone or disappeared into the internet. It's with a real business who's now coming to provide that service. So always try to include that, and that's why I put it on that path there. So then there's visitor number 2, researching your business. So somebody who's not ready to buy, wants more information, is doing a little bit of homework, and wants to make sure you're going to be a good fit for them, and that you provide exactly what they need. Give them a path. Maybe they show up on your homepage, maybe they learn a little bit more about your services, and maybe they're not ready to buy, so they can go to the contact page where they can ask more questions, they can reach out to you. Or maybe it's the low commitment offer where they can sign up for your newsletter and be subscribed to receive coupons, offers, or maybe it's just tips. Maybe your newsletter doesn't sell. Maybe your newsletter just gives free information on how to do something. So that should also lead to a thank you page once they complete the form, saying what to expect next. Here's what's going to happen. We got your email. We send out our newsletters weekly on Mondays, usually in the morning. So be on the lookout for that. If you don't see it on Monday morning, check your junk folder, check your spam folder. Just because you subscribe doesn't necessarily mean we'll show up in your inbox. Things like that are just very helpful. It gives the visitor a great experience. They see what happened and what to expect. Some other things to ask is, will you have a blog? If you do, what's the focus of that blog? Are you going to provide free information? Are you going to get into reviews of things? There's a lot of bloggers out there that review different types. A pizza place could review the different cheeses and why they use a certain cheese. Why do we use mozzarella? Why do we use fresh mozzarella? Why don't we use pre-shredded mozzarella? They could talk about the cornstarch that's in there and makes it gummy, and the flavor is affected by it. Or, those are very, very great pieces of content that can attract traffic and build trust with your audience about the quality ingredients you're using if you're a pizza place. So I like pizza, so I think pizza place just keeps coming back to me. But
never knew about the cornstarch either. That's really interesting.
Well, I read it on a blog. It's just information. That's
interesting.
It's a lot of info out there. So
I love it. Speaking of information,
Mm-hmm.
we do have a question about updating information. So is that a way to increase your search engine optimization, to constantly be going in and modifying the content on your website?
So yes and no. So one of the misleading pieces of information that is out there about search engine optimization is that you can only, your content has to be up to date in order to rank. And that's in some cases true if the intent of the searcher is looking for up-to-date information. For example, if you have a blog about SARS viruses that hasn't been updated in 5 years, you're missing out on a few versions of that SARS virus that have come out since then, and therefore it's probably not a very relevant article anymore. So yes, in that case, it's very important that you keep up-to-date information. You don't have to rewrite it, but you can update it with new information that's more relevant, that links, maybe there's links in there to new CDC guidelines, et cetera, et cetera. But if you've got a for example, you know, how to nail, you know, how to nail a hammer, a nail into a deck with a hammer. That hasn't changed for millennia. So updating that type of content is probably not going to really help you. You want to thoroughly talk about what nailing a nail into a deck with a hammer is all about, safety measures, things you shouldn't do, things you shouldn't do. So you want to make it a thorough piece. And I'm using a bad example here, I know, but there hasn't really been any new landmark information about how to nail something into a deck. It's the same. You swing a hammer into a nail, and that's how it works. So you have to be careful. It's not really about the date that's on it. It's more about the content that Google's looking for, and if it's helpful in the relevant searches, which are, you know, what's going on today with SARS and COVID and things like that. So it's more applicable in those types of searches. So the search intent is really, that's going to be you have to start there. What's the search intent? What are they looking for?
So going back to your example about SARS, for example, if somebody put in precautions against SARS, let's say, are you saying then that Google is sophisticated enough to understand that that is that category, that something written in 2016 may not be relevant? So automatically we're going to be looking at things that are more 2020 and then going back in time? Like, how is Google figuring out what topics are time sensitive and what topics are more perennial, like how to nail boards or something like that?
Yeah, well, it's going to take a lot of different, it's going to take the question and the likelihood of that question being for something more relevant. For example, if somebody's looking for how to, you know, does an N95 mask prevent SARS-CoV from being breathed in, for example? If somebody's legitimately trying to figure that out. There's a lot of factors in here. So the website's validity, you know, the validity and reputation of that website, all these things come into play when Google's giving that information or showing it in their results. But it's going to know that you're talking about a recent outbreak of a variant of the SARS-CoV COVID-19 version of this virus. So it's going to take into account the context and know that you're probably looking for this version, not maybe the version that came out in 2010, and start giving you that information. If it's a landmark page like that the CDC puts out on SARS-CoV that maybe isn't up to date but has a lot of good information, it's probably still going to rank and still be relevant. But I think the user intent is really going to give Google what it needs to know what pages to present. Along with, again, there are other factors here. The location of the person, their search history, their preferences, all of those things are variables that that's why two people on two different laptops, one could be in California, one could be in Massachusetts, can search Google with the exact same term and they'll get different results. Wow. So those are all those variables all play into it. So they're gonna say, or Google's gonna say it's about the intent, the search intent of that person. What are they looking for?
That's how they're asking the question. So we have a question here that our websites are, if we follow the best practices, they are going to be updated just by virtue of the fact that we're constantly adding blogs. What is the frequency that is ideal for blogs?
Oh, whatever you can do. There's no right or wrong answer. You know, if you can create a piece of content every day, then yeah, absolutely, do it. If you can't, which I understand most people can't, then try to stick to something you can do. If you can do it weekly, if you can do it monthly, if you can do it quarterly. I know very well, there's an SEO that I follow, very prominent figure in the SEO world. He hasn't written a blog in over a year. So it's really what you can do. And whenever you do, let's say you do write a piece of content today, there's a timeline that some expectation should be there. Google needs to index that page. And by index, I mean they have a little robot that goes out and reads every web page that is out on the web that's publicly available. And they may not find it right away. It may take a few weeks for it to show up. So you can speed that process up by requesting it be indexed. There's a process on that, and that's a little more advanced, but even then they don't guarantee it. They tell you, don't expect this to happen anytime sooner than it would have naturally happened. That's how they say it. So that's going to take a few weeks for it to index. And then when it does index, they need to figure out the content. They need to figure out, what is this content all about? And what is it relevant for? What type of search is it going to be relevant for? So once that starts to happen, then it may start appear in search results. And that could be for a particular phrase, a particular question, a particular search query. All that takes into account when a page starts to rank. There's other factors in there. So if people link to that article, the robot, the little Google robot, is going to find it probably more quickly, and also realize that people are referring to this. It may be a legitimate source of good information to answer people's questions. So they'll consider that. There's a lot more that goes into that, but ultimately when you write something, give it time. And then you want to always go back and review whether the page is actually being found by people who are looking for answers relevant to the blog. And if it's not, then maybe tweak it, adjust it a little bit, figure out what people are asking. And that's the process of SEO. It's slow, but it's being sensitive to what people are looking for and trying the best way to answer and address that question.
So if you go back to the example of the landscaping company, and we talked about maybe doing like a video or a blog about, yellow patches on the lawn and maybe the overgrowing of weeds or this or that, are you better off writing one piece about a few things, or should you break that into yellow spots on the lawn, overgrowing of weeds? Like, should you break it down?
So that's a great question. I think it may be best to consider the person writing it and find out what might work for them. I think both would work. So here's an example based on what you just said. Here's 5 things or 5 problems your lawn may have, or 5 solutions to problems your lawn may have, and you list all 5, which is a very good way to communicate, issues that you'll find in your lawn and how to address them, and they all range the different types of issues you find. Or if the person writing these content is able to say, okay, I can do at least, a couple of 100 words and really exhaustively explain how this all happens and why it happens on just let's say the burned lawn question, then you can write a nice piece on just that and how to address it, which is again up to the person who's writing and what they're capable of and able to do. But I would even say do both. Write, here's 5 things that happen to bad things that happen to your lawn and how to resolve them. And then inside of that, just write a summary, be brief, 1 paragraph, 2 paragraphs about how to deal with burnt grass, and then link and say, if you want to know more about this, I have a post about it here, and click, link to it. And then this is the full, exhaustive explanation of why your grass burns. And, it has to do with the type of grass it is, how much sun it gets, what zone you're in, all these fancy terms of landscapers use, and get into all of that. And now you've got 2 pieces of content interlinking with each other, and it's all good for SEO. It's all very good stuff, very helpful, very good for your visitors, which is really what you're writing for, right? It's your customer. It helps them. It gives them information, and it builds your authority. This guy or this gal knows what they're talking about. I'm going to go with them to take care of my lawn. So
Gotcha.
good stuff.
Thank you.
So I have just a few more slides. I can continue on. I love the questions. These are really good. I think that's, well, I got 1 or 2 here. So what did we cover? So how to clarify your offering, create a clear homepage that delivers what you do, for whom, and why it matters in 5 seconds or less. Really boil it down, concentrate it, make it as easy to read as possible. Address the intent of your audience. We've been talking about this not only for SEO purposes or search engine optimization purposes, but really for your audience. Make it about them. Make it so that they can relate to it and understand it, because you're really talking to them. If you're able to narrow down the demographic, male, female, adult or child, or age range, if they're in the 30s or 40s or 50s, if you can get that narrow, I think it will help. But you don't have to, because you may have a broader audience, so that's okay. But maybe there's something you can narrow it down by. Maybe it's location. Maybe you're talking to New Englanders, Massachusetts residents, maybe your town, specifically your town. It's okay to do that, and it's really beneficial because that's your customer, and it's going to help them understand that you're a local business, help them understand that you're addressing their needs. So it's very, very good practices there. To narrow down your audience there and understand what they're looking for, the issues that they're dealing with. One thing that comes to mind is road construction. If you're a retailer and I think Northampton had to deal with this. They're closing Main Street down for this remodification or redesign or something. So write about it. Say, okay, we're on Main Street in Northampton. How do I find, or where do I park? How do I get to your business during the Northampton Main Street redesign? Write a blog about it. Explain. Take pictures. Okay, you want to park back here, go down Pearl Street and do this or do that. And give your users, your visitors, your customers clear instructions, and then share it on Lova's social media. Say, hey, there's a parking lot here. There's a parking lot here. People, the local people, it may not go viral or whatever, but the local audience is going to say, this is great. Now I know where to park and how to get to your business, because I didn't know where to go before. So that kind of stuff really helps. And then a purpose. What do you want the visitor to do? Do you want them to read your blog? Do you want them to sign up for a newsletter? Do you want them to just be able to purchase or schedule an appointment? Give them clear instructions. Make it very obvious. This is what the next step is if you want to become a customer. These are just some tips. I know that this stuff does, I think, take away, it can overwhelm business owners and take away from their focus. And I want to kind of just hopefully quell a little bit of anxiety about these things. So here's some things not to worry about. Don't worry about technology. I get asked all the time, what do you use for technology? What do you use for technology? And it's not that the technology doesn't matter. It's that they all work. They all work. So your business can not only get set up, if you're a small business, get set up, but you can also scale with almost any platform out there. It's very rare for you to start somewhere and have to, that you outgrow it. It's very rare. So, you know, unless you're, you know, Apple or Coca-Cola or Hewlett Packard and you need these enterprise grade resources, you know, when you get that big, you'll have a staff that can take care of it and get you off your Wix website. It's fine. So don't worry about it. WordPress, Wix, Squarespace, all of them, whatever you find is probably going to work. Don't worry about responsiveness. I know it's important. Your website should be responsive. What I'm saying is don't worry if it will be responsive based on the technology. All the web builders out there are building responsive websites now. So it's very rare for you to not have that. If you've got an older website that hasn't been updated in several years, then maybe you should worry about getting it responsive. And you can find that out just by loading it on your mobile phone. And if you have to pinch and zoom, it's not responsive. So you need to upgrade it. And that can probably be done with where you're at today. But if not, you can transition to one of these platforms and it'll be responsive natively. And then trends. This has always just been a factor when it comes to websites. What's in today will likely be out tomorrow. We had a question earlier about carousels. Carousels were big. A lot of websites use them. A lot of legitimate websites, very big companies use them. But today I would say they're not, you're adding, you're taking away from the user experience when you add a lot of frills and features that aren't necessary. Visitors want to know what it is you do, for whom, and why it matters, and then how do I buy. The carousel isn't going to help, and some of these other bells and whistles aren't really going to help. What you should worry about, is pictures. Try to avoid stock photos when you can and if you can. Real pictures of your business, inside, outside, your team. If you're a freelancer or a solopreneur, pictures of you. Those pictures of your products, pictures of your projects. You know, if you're an HVAC company and you installed a water heater, take a picture of it. Those are really, really good ways to build trust online. Worry about your content. Try to hone it down, be short, to the point. Work on your elevator speech, because your 30-second elevator speech is actually too long for the web. So shorten that. SEO, you know, people are using search engines to find stuff, even when they know what it is. You know, they're not going to Amazon.com. They're just typing in Amazon in Google. So you want to be thinking about how are people going to find your business, and I mean not by your name. Assume they don't know who you are. If you're an accountant and they need accounting services, don't assume they know your business name. Don't assume they've seen your business on an ad or on a billboard. Assume they don't even know who you exist, and that they search for accounting services near me, or accounting services for my HVAC business, or accounting services for Springfield businesses. That's what they're looking for, and that's how they're going to find you. So think about that when you're writing your content. And design, we talked a little bit about this, but design is important, but it's secondary. Your branding is important, but the content really is more, it's really what communicates to people what it is you do. So colors, fonts, layouts, they're all important, but the content and the journey is really what you want. That experience is more important. And when you have that ready, your design will be determined by that and give more insight into the site's purpose. If you're wanting them to do take a path to purchase, the design can help them do that once you know what that is. So we talked, there's been a lot of stuff we covered here, but I want to just bring some attention to choosing a domain, talking about keywords. Will Google find my website? So choosing a domain is personal preference. Some people will advise that you have what your business does in the domain. So if you're a landscaping service, make sure landscaping is in your domain. I don't necessarily think I don't think it's necessary. It's a good idea, but I don't think it's necessary. Keywords, again, think about how your customers will find you that don't know your business name or don't know you exist. Put a lot of thought into that and make sure those keywords are used in your content. Let's say that accounting business they can use the word accounting, accounting services for Springfield businesses, Springfield, Mass businesses. That could be their title tag. That could be what goes into the website. And when people search for it, Google's going to say, oh, they're the accounting, they do accounting services for Springfield businesses. And hopefully that'll bubble up and that's how they'll find them. So will Google find my website? So by default, unless you go out of your way to avoid getting found by Google, yes, Google will find your website. If you have a Squarespace website or a Wix website or a WordPress website, more than likely Google will find it. It's very rare for it to not. You have to kind of go out of your way and say, do not index my website. So they will find it. Can you help them find it? Yes. Can you do some things to make sure they find it and to test it? Yes, but I would not spend too much time on that. But I can certainly answer any questions or give some tips on how to do that. It's part of SEO, and if your business cannot be found on Google, if you can't see it, then you won't get any traffic from Google, and that's a problem. So you want to make sure it is indexed in Google. And how can I update or maintain my website? So there's lots of ways to do it, but I would always advise a blog. A blog is the best way to just write new content for your site. Updating your service pages and home pages and other pages are important, but that frequency is going to be low because unless you change things or add new services, that's probably not going to change a lot. So a blog is probably your best way to update or maintain your website. And I'll take questions. I don't know how long we have here.
We have about 20 minutes, and that was
boy.
great. And we've got great comments, so thank you so much. So
Yeah.
one of the questions that came up was when we talk about the domain name, I'm just reading the question here. Shall I buy my domain name from GoDaddy, Wix, or other site builders, or should you buy it from a place that just sells domain names? And which domain suffix, is it .com, .net, .org? Any thought about which of that .us, all of the suffix? What do you think?
Yeah. So I think for the to answer the question of where to buy domains, I personally think it's a good idea to work with a domain registrar simply for customer service reasons. That's really it. GoDaddy and Wix and Weebly and some of these other, Squarespace I think as well, they, with the exception of GoDaddy, they're not registrars. They are partnering with a registrar. A registrar is a type of company that ICANN, which is an overarching organization that manages domains, they give a license or they give the privilege of selling domains to certain companies. GoDaddy is one of them. Squarespace, Wix, Weebly, and others, they partner with Enom and some of these other registrars in order to sell websites. So they're like resellers. I think it's fine for you to do that. I think from a customer service perspective, if you are happy with your web hosting company and their customer service, then by all means buy the domain from them. Some other companies, and the ones that I use, have great customer service. I can talk to a person about my needs. So the company that I use primarily is hover.com. I don't, there's no endorsement there or anything like that. It's just a company that I've worked with, and they're even a reseller. They're not actually, they're part of Two Cows, which is the overarching registrar company. So that would be my recommendation. Wherever you're going to get the best customer service experience.
Gotcha.
You know, because there's going to be a day when you're going to need to talk to them. You're going to forget your name, your username and password. You're going to need to change something, and that can be a difficult process if you pick the wrong company. You want to get someone you can get someone on the phone with to help you.
So what about the .com, .net, .org? And when you go to buy it, you know how they say, oh, for $5 more, you can buy .us, .this, .that.
Yep.
Should you just scoop them all up? Is that worth doing? What are your thoughts about that?
So I think if a domain, so as far as the top level, what they call the top level domains, TLDs, .com, if you can get it, is great. That's what visitors or that's what consumers are familiar with, but don't be shackled by that. You can get creative and use something different. .co is very popular. .net. I would avoid .biz and .info. They don't have the best reputation. You know, people scamming websites use them, and
Okay.
They can be used. Don't get me wrong. Your website doesn't have to be a scamming website, but I know that even in my email system, I can specifically block .info websites from emailing me. So,
Oh, really?
yeah. So you want to be just careful. Should you? So the first part of that question, any domain works. There's ones out there like .plumber, .lawyer. Yeah, there's a lot of really creative ones that you can get, and I think they're good. They're not bad. I think they're very good, and it allows you to get more specific about your domain. So I think they're a good thing to get. When they offer you all these other domains, the problem with that is you have to do one of two things. One is that you just redirect them to your main website. So let's say you get mybusiness.com, you buy it, and it says, oh, for $5 more, get mybusiness.net and mybusiness.org and mybusiness.us. So all of those domains are just going to sit there, and they're going to redirect to your .com. So when somebody types in mybusiness.us, the website will send them to mybusiness.com, and the website will change in the browser, and you'll see that. Are you gonna advertise and market that domain? If the answer is yes, do you really want them to redirect to your homepage, or would you want to create a landing page like we talked about earlier, and it's specifically for certain marketing purposes that you're going to use that domain for a particular audience? If you're going to do that, then absolutely go ahead and buy those domains, because you can use those other domains for marketing channels that you want to use them for, and create landing pages for those domains. But remember, each one of those is going to be a separate website. They're not all one website. They're each their own website. So you'll be running 2 websites if you do that, or 3 websites if you do that. So keep that in mind. But if you're not going to do that, and you really only want to be running one website, then it's probably not, the only reason to do it would be for brand. If you've got a very particular brand and you don't want anybody to copy you, then you can scoop them up. And then if you've got the money, budget always plays into that. So
a couple of people one person bought their domain name, Namecheap, NAMECHEAP.com, and someone else bought one on Google, and both had really good luck with that.
Yep.
And so is there any possibility that if you go to buy your website on one from one particular seller, it could seem to be available, but then not actually be available. In other words, are they all tapping the same database about availability? So if you're
Yes.
going to GoDaddy or what's this called, namecheap.com, and you
Yep.
put in, apple.com, are they all going to say it's taken because they're all tapping the information from the same database?
They are. So
okay.
there's a
Gotcha.
database. It's called the Who Is database. Who is, WHOIS, and that's maintained and managed by, again, that ICANN institution, ICANN,
Okay.
and they're supposed to let you know of the availability based on the registration for that domain. One thing you'll probably see is whether the domain registration is private or not. Because for example, if I wanted to find out who owned apple.com, I could see the registration data. It's public information. But if I pay an added fee for it to be privatized or made private, what happens is the registrar will not skew the information, but they'll put their information on the public database. So it won't say who owns it. It'll say Two Cows owns it. And some registrars are trying to capture leads. So they'll say, sign up in order to see if it's available. Shouldn't have to do that. That's the way to get your email address more than anything.
Okay. So have you heard of Bluehost?
Yep.
The current promotion with WordPress. Can you talk a little bit about that?
I don't know about the current promotion. I know who Bluehost is.
Okay. It's a current promotion with WordPress. Is it a recommended bundle package?
So,
do you know anything about it?
I don't know anything about that particular bundle.
Okay.
WordPress is, not WordPress, I'm sorry, Bluehost. Bluehost is a company that's part of a conglomerate, let's say, in the sense that there's multiple companies or multiple fronts for one big company. Bluehost just happens to be one of the brands that they own. It's kind of like Johnson & Johnson. You buy soap from Dial or one other company, they're all owned by Johnson & Johnson. Bluehost is one of those brands. So I personally don't recommend using Bluehost simply for a customer service perspective and because you're getting really cheap hosting, meaning the website may not perform that well because the $5.99 a month website isn't given a lot of bandwidth or resources in order to serve up a web page very quickly. If you're going to go with WordPress, and this is the key word here to write down, is you want to go with managed WordPress hosting or fully managed WordPress hosting. The reason is WordPress is really can be insecure, and you can get a $5.99 or a $9.99 website with them, but you're going to end up having to install plugin after plugin after plugin in order to secure the website, run security scans, all this maintenance that comes with a WordPress website. If you go with a managed hosting provider, they take care of that for you. Now you're going to pay more. You're going to pay $20 to $30 to $40 or more, $50 a month, but they take care of it all for you. They keep it secure. They don't add any plugins. They give you the bandwidth you need so your web page will be fast and responsive. And it's just, whenever your website, if it gets hacked, like WordPress, you have the risk of it getting hacked and things like that. They take care of it. They back it up for you and they'll restore it for you. You're getting what you pay for in those cases. So I know GoDaddy does offer managed WordPress hosting, but it is more expensive. So just consider.
But to look for the words managed.
Yes. Or
yes.
Fully managed. Yeah.
Fully managed. Okay. Yeah. So speaking of money,
Yeah.
right, some folks have asked in the chat and in the Q&A, what's the best way to think about budgeting for a website and to have assistance with creating an impactful website? And what kind of budget does it recommend? Do you recommend that someone spend? Because, you know, we're
Yeah.
all small businesses, and, you know, I've tried to do it on a shoestring, and in the end, it was an expensive decision because I lost a lot of time. So there really is that time factor in getting out there more impactfully.
Yeah.
What do you have to say about that?
So I think your business website is really going to be its primary. I don't have the data in front of me, but it's going to be your primary marketing channel. It really is. When businesses are found online, if you look at some of the data that's been done, or some of the recent studies that have been done, the number one channel for businesses getting found, not already known businesses, but discovered by consumers, is organic search. That means people are finding businesses just by searching Google, searching Bing, and not knowing the business name, and discovering them through the search results that come in. The channels that are out there, the other marketing channels, social media, radio, display ads, pay-per-click ads, and all those are all valid channels, and they're all very good and powerful, but they're reaching a much smaller audience, a very targeted audience, but a much smaller audience. But all of them, no matter which one you choose, is all leading back to your website. So your conversion, the place where you're converting those visitors into customers, is happening at your website. All that being said, that's where you want to invest your money. If you can have a budget, I would say at least $1,000. If you can do it for less, great. But that place, you really want to convince your visitors to turn into customers on your website, and it needs to be well written, it needs to be easy to use, and it needs to be fast. You can't waste time pages loading. You can't waste time with elements not properly loading where they should be. And I think a budget of around $1,000 will get you that by a designer, or by paying a copywriter. Let's say you build it yourself. Let's say you want to go to Squarespace and build it yourself. I think investing in a copywriter who can write 4 or 5 pages for you, they'll interview you, they'll work with you. That's a good investment. And then even a photographer. So if you build it yourself and you hire a photographer for an hour or two, that's probably a couple $100. And then you talk to a copywriter, that's probably a couple $100. You're going to end up with a better quality product, better website overall, even if you build it yourself, in that the copy and the photography are professional and they're done well, and they're taking in all this stuff that we've talked about, and making that website really a great place to convert your visitor.
And isn't it an expectation that when you work with a web designer such as yourself, that you leave understanding how to make some changes yourself, or is it best to write the blog and sort of email it to the web designer and let them put it on? Like, what is the best way to work that going forward?
That's a great question. I think personally that the value of having a web designer is to give them the work. If you're going to write it, you shouldn't have to edit it, post it, put it all in there, and make sure that it looks good. I think that's part of, I think, what you would be paying for with your hosting now, or part of your web designer's fees. that's not always the case. I think, you know, if you are on a tight budget and you really have to keep as many things in-house or reduce your expenses as much as possible, then yeah, your web designer should give you the ability to log in, post your blogs, make changes and updates, but understand that sometimes they won't support, you know, if you go in there and the blog doesn't load right and needs all kinds of changes done, they're going to probably charge you to make those changes or edits or fix it. So you want to kind of balance that, and it really comes back to your time and resources. I think it's a benefit for you to focus on what you do best, give them what you need to have changed, and let them do that, and make sure that, you know, you check in and make sure they do it right, but leverage that. You're paying for it, leverage it.
And what would be an ongoing budget? Like, let's say someone had $1,000 and then copywriting, photography, let's call it maybe $1,500.
Yep.
What would you expect a monthly update fee to be if someone were to write a blog every month, or commit to writing a blog every month, or just, you know, refreshing it in some way? What might you expect that to cost from a budgeting standpoint?
Yeah. So just so I can clarify the question a little bit, if you're having somebody write a blog, that cost can range for you. That cost can range anywhere between as low as maybe $30 or $40 to $150 to $200. There's a lot of factors that go into that. Word count is generally how much something's going to cost. So a 300-word blog article will probably cost you $25. 1,000-word blog article will cost you $50 or more. And then as the words increase, so does the cost. But there are other factors, like will the blogger have to, or will the copywriter have to cite their sources and put links? Are they targeting specific keywords? What voice are they taking? Are they going to be taking a professional voice? Are they going to be taking a more casual voice? Are they going to be taking a more fun voice? A good copywriter is going to take in your audience, take in your voice, take in all these factors into consideration when writing something, and you're going to pay more money. So a 1,000-word blog post could run you $200, but it's going to have the links citing all the resources. You know, if they are naming statistics and data without a good source, it doesn't look good. So they'll do that, along with they'll try to match your tone, and your voice for your audience, so that it's, you know, if you're dealing with, let's say, a CPA or a lawyer, you don't really want a casual, fun voice. You want a professional. You know, so those things.
No, you really do. That will attract more clients. But given the fact that a blog then is delivered to you, like let's say an email format, whether or not the client wrote their own blog or had professional assistance, what would you think would be a monthly budget that someone would have to set aside to be sure it's expertly put onto the site and does all the things it's supposed to do?
That can range depending. There's a lot of factors that go into that, but it can range from as little as maybe $50 a month for hosting, what would be considered hosting, support, and maintenance.
Oh, okay.
It depends. Each web design company is going to work differently. Some will just give the customer the hosting fees. Say it's your website, you own it, and you pay for the hosting, and that could be the $25 a month for managed WordPress. Then the whole web design company may say, we'll maintain it and manage it for you and support it for you for $50 a month, $100 a month, or $150 a month. There's a range, and you get certain things with different companies, depending on what type of site it is and what they specialize in. So that's what I would expect. So that consider consider anywhere between $25 to $200 a month as part of a web. It's maintenance, support, and maybe even hosting would be included in that. As part of that's a good price range to look at. If it's more, try to figure out why. What is the added value they're delivering? If it's less, I would find out.
Question why?
Yeah. Why is this so cheap? I want to know.
Sometimes you get what you pay for, right?
Right.
I love that. So I have one last question.
Yeah.
How would you recommend somebody increase their SEO? Like, are there things that our business owners can be doing to increase their SEO?
Yes, there's lots of things. So the first thing is to find out.
You just have 2 minutes to answer. I don't mean to put you under pressure.
Ooh, okay. So if you're a local business, first off, are you trying to reach customers locally or trying to reach customers nationally? There's got to be some objective there. So if you're a local business, I'll just speak to local because I think that's going to be more relevant to the people here. But so absolutely number one, you have to use Google My Business. You have to claim your listing on Google My Business, and you have to update it regularly. At least monthly, but try to do it weekly. That means post a photo. That means write a post. That means add an event, but engage with it. Answer Q&As, ask for reviews. Give your customers links to the Google My Business page and ask for feedback. Don't offer anything for it. Don't do a quid pro quo. Don't do anything. Just simply say, thank you for being a customer. Would you like to leave some feedback? Here's a link. And that's it. And then say thank you when you do get a feedback. Respond to it. So Google My Business, number one. Number two, mention your what it is you do, for whom, and specifically where you do it. So if you have an office or you have a storefront, mention the city and town in your website. Put it in the address, put the address into it on the footer, on the header, put it on every page. If you do it in the footer, it'll be on every page. That's going to let people know that you are a local business, and whenever they do a near me search, it will hope Google will understand that if they're in your vicinity, that you are located there. And then try your best to update the content in there for your audience. Everything that we talked about really is all SEO information or optimized for search engines. It's also optimized for your visitors. So it's really saying, I'm a landscaping company who services homeowners in Westfield, Massachusetts, or in the greater Westfield area. And say that, and say it over and over again. Put it in your, what they call title tags, put it in your descriptions on each page, put it as part of your photos, there's alt text, these little descriptors that you can put in your text images, your photos. So all of those pieces of information, let Google, let Bing, and let your visitors know what it is you do, for whom, and where you do it. And those are really essential for local SEO, because it tells everyone what you're doing and where you're doing it. And when they search in your area, they're going to find you when it's relevant, obviously. Not, if you're selling pizza, if you're a pizza restaurant and they're looking for hamburgers, you're not going to come up. So,
and repetition isn't bad, is what you're saying, that to repeat it so it reinforces it.
Correct.
We're looking at the Q&A in the chat, and it's thank you that this was wonderful.
Yes.
So
awesome.
Yes, we are greatly appreciative of your time today, Roberto. And we did have a question. If anyone has any questions, might they email you and just with the follow-up? Would you like to share that information?
Yeah, they can email me at hello, HELLO,
Okay, I'm writing this down too.
Mhm.
Yes.
Hello at Turrem, and that's spelled TURREM as in Mary, .co.
Great. Great. Thank you so much, Roberto. We'll
Yeah, it's
see
my
you
pleasure.
again and stay
Yes,
well. Bye-bye.
thank you.
And thank you to all for joining.